Part 19. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 182. Chapter 182 The Legendary Pervert. 2. At the same time that the Golden Image skill was completely completed, the mutated giant elephant secret martial arts, together with the strengthening effects of several hard Kigongs, were all transformed into a symbol, which was submerged into the Golden Image skill bar and turned into a mysterious symbol again. Golden Image skill, the 5th level of Dachin part of the mutant giant elephant's secret weapon has been covered, and part of it has been enhanced. Some effects conflicted and were erased. The meaning of the symbol was directly transmitted to Garen's mind. He was also nervous now. If he cannot achieve his goal this time, his strength will be reduced in disguise. Whether the Golden Image skill can compete with the mutated giant elephant secret martial arts depends on the final test. The skill bar of the Golden Image skill is gradually fixed and will no longer change after it is formed. Golden Image skill, the 5th level of Dachin. Known for strength, recovery, defense. Level 1 defense enhancement. I used to practice hard Qigong to achieve peak transformation. There is no backlash, but the strong hardness will also produce a huge reaction force, so this is not a big problem. I don't know if the peak effect of hard Qigong during attack is still preserved. Garen tried to mobilize his energy and blood to change his body shape. Fortunately, the peak effect is still there, but I can't get up to the 2nd level, and only 1 level is left. Wei Wei was a little disappointed, and he continued to look at the skill bar. There are still 10 potential points, and the Golden Image skill can be forcibly improved, and the name has not turned gray. Without any hesitation, he directly added 5 potential points. The internal organs in the body seemed to begin to undergo strange and pleasant changes. Garen didn't pay much attention to this, but focused on Dachin's Golden Image skill. This secret martial art, which was already at its peak, was at least second-rate, but after adding 5 points of potential, it underwent strange changes. A strange symbol appears behind the golden statue. Garen quickly understood what the representative meant: forcefully perform the golden statue kung fu to achieve the theoretical limit. The skill has been greatly improved. Rename according to the information. Jin Xianggong's name slowly disappeared, and what reappeared was a new name. God Statue Skill. Galen felt relieved. It is the pinnacle that only exists in the imagination of the creator of the Golden Image skill. No one knows what kind of effects the God Idol Kung Fu has. Only Garen, who felt it personally, knew that at this moment, he was filled with an indescribable energy. The God statue technique is based on the idea that the gods are high above, unchanging, and overlooking all living beings. Therefore, the idol is immutable, eternal, and cannot be injured. This is the theoretical pinnacle of the Golden Image skill. It requires an extremely high spiritual level to achieve. The moment the God statue skill was achieved, countless supporting fighting skills continued to flow rapidly through Garen's mind, and his body also quickly adapted to memorize these fighting skills. The giant elephant secret martial arts fighting skills at the top fighter level gradually degraded into ordinary proficiency skills. What replaced it was a series of fighting skills after the Golden Image technique broke through the idol. Call. He raised his hand and brought up a large airflow cyclone, and the petals of the leaves and flowers on the surrounding ground were blown out in all directions at the same time. There was a faint layer of white gold on the back of the hand, as if it didn't look like a human hand. Garen's hands collided with each other, making a clanging sound. Unlike the giant elephant secret martial arts, the God statue skill is much harder and less flexible. Garen felt that the muscles and skin all over his body had become as hard as metal, but strangely he could bend and move flexibly. At night, the night wind blew coldly on my body, and I almost didn't feel it at all. At the corner of the manor building, the hanging chandelier kept swaying, quietly emitting dim light. The entire martial arts arena was vaguely light and dark. Boom! An explosion suddenly came from the dark forest in the distance, and the rumble was like thunder from far to near, shaking the entire manor. Garin frowned and looked in that direction. Subtle gunshots could still be heard faintly. Mark. Soon several servants in white ran out of the main building of the manor, led by a middle-aged man with a mustache. Master, there are Legion soldiers fighting with unknown forces nearby. Our people have gone over to check. Garin glanced at him. Has Winhadon come back? Still in Scale City, the Felicia sisterhood matter is a bit complicated and hasn't been resolved yet. Last time, he applied for the transfer of more than 40 people. Mark answered respectfully. We can't deal with such a small matter. Forget it, send a few districts to inquire. The mountains near here are our property. Anyone who comes in without permission and disobeys the management will be destroyed. Garin's 5 fingers moved, making a hissing sound of metal rubbing against each other. Not long after Mark slowly retreated, 2 dark figures suddenly jumped up on a wall of the martial arts arena, and then landed lightly on the white stone ground. Seeing that Garin's eyebrows were raised and he was about to take action, a dark figure suddenly raised his hand and made a sound. It's me, Garin. The dark shadow walked into the light, and Androla's familiar appearance suddenly appeared. Another shadow followed and walked out of the darkness. This is a handsome man in a black suit. He has a small black beard on his chin and a modest smile on his face, just like the most elegant British gentleman. Nice to meet you, Mr. Elephant Gallon. Well-known Chinese brand, Shengxiang Flooring. Well-known brand, Shengxiang Flooring. Holy Elephant Floor. Floor. Plate. It was like thousands of grass and mud horses running through my mind, and the echoes kept repeating. Garin took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to hit. With a blank expression on his face, he said, I don't remember that I have this nickname. Who came up with this stupid title? Don't you know? This is the title assigned to you by the World Martial Arts Federation. Generally, the title of a fighter is based on the boxing and martial arts he is good at as a nickname. Isn't the Holy Elephant very concise and elegant? The gentleman asked with some confusion. Garin's face twitched a few times, he took a breath, then shrugged and changed the subject. Just thinking of a joke I encountered before, I still like others to call me the Master of Bayun Section. Who is your excellency? The man smiled and looked affectionately at Androla aside. The latter immediately shuddered, forced a smile, stepped forward and introduced. This is the King of Nightmares, Stephen Ralph. Gallon had never seen Androla behave like this. Looking at the two people's positions, he had a vague suspicion. Before he could respond, he saw Ralph looking at Androla with a sad look on his face. Lila, haven't you accepted my love for you yet? We are obviously naked with each other. Dot. Dot. A gust of cold wind blew across the venue, and the 3 of them were stunned for a moment. Garin felt goosebumps all over his body. Tutu, please go down and rest first. He managed to squeeze out a sentence as an invitation. Mark. Mark quickly walked out of the building and bowed to salute. Take 2 distinguished guests to the rest room. Yes, master. Androla smiled reluctantly and stayed away from Ralph calmly. Ralph, you go and have a rest first. Garin and I will have a few words first. Ralph glanced at him resentfully, then looked at Garin with admiration, then nodded and followed Mark away. Gallon and Androla were left in the yard. Until the footsteps were far away, the 2 of them stood facing each other and still no one spoke first. Be careful with Ralph. Androla forced out a complicated smile bitterly. What's going on between you and him? Garin sat down cross-legged, feeling that the goosebumps on his body had not gone away yet. Androla sat down slowly, the expression on her face became even more bitter. This matter has to start with my previous experience when I went out. As Androla spoke frankly, Garin gradually understood what happened. At the same time, we also got a deeper understanding of Stephen Ralph, the King of Nightmares. This Ralph is just a pseudonym for one of them. The Nightmare King has countless identities. The king of nightmares with 1,000 faces, through self-hypnosis and hypnosis on him, adjusts his physical structure and superimposes hallucinations, which can transform him into men, women, old and young, of all shapes and sizes. When he turned into a woman, he had a one-night stand with Andrula, and later turned into a man and became gay friends with him. The story in between is mixed with countless histories of blood and tears, and has completely transcended gender boundaries. Garin, who thought he was well informed, felt hairy all over. Ralph will change his body appearance every once in a while. He can adjust his body at will, whether it is endocrine or skeletal muscle deformation. This guy is proficient in ancient martial arts from many countries, especially martial arts such as Jiu-Jitsu. He is well-deserved top master, Andrula said helplessly. In terms of martial arts strength alone, he is almost the same as me now, not to mention other methods such as hypnosis. Finally he added, "What you have to pay attention to is that every time the King of Nightmares changes his identity, his personality and temperament will also change accordingly. So don't take him lightly at any time." Garin nodded speechlessly. The King of Nightmares. Well deserved. Andrula looked at Garin, her face couldn't help but twitch. You have to be careful. That guy probably likes you. Anyone he likes will turn into that person's body in a few days. In the martial arts field, the evening wind blew, and two galleons stood with their hands behind their hands, as if looking up at the stars. Who are you? I'm Garin. I am Garin. You scumbag with a strength of 5. Who allowed you to impersonate me? Humph. How dare you pretend to be me? You are being treasonous. Giant elephant secret martial arts. Everything returns. Andrula suddenly shuddered, interrupting the scene in her mind. According to his impression of Galen, the possibility of the scene happening in his mind is not small. Garen's expression was dull, and he obviously had a bad association. Then how was it solved before? This kind of situation was solved. In the past, he would directly knock the real master out and lock him up, pretending to be him for a period of time, and then return to his old ways when he got tired of playing. Of course it's impossible for you, it depends on how you deal with it, Andrula said helplessly. However, he generally has several fixed identities. This Stephen Ralph is one of them, and he is also the number one in the Siren organization. There is another identity that is also relatively fixed, and you will see it after a while. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 183. To be honest, you really found someone weird. But the strength is very good, Andrula seemed to be comforting herself. Invite him to come with you this time, because he is a famous wanted criminal in the Federation, so the previous explosion caused you trouble. It doesn't matter. How do you plan to arrange it? Now we have to wait for Palasha. If he agrees, there will be 4 of us, enough to deal with any situation, Garin asked softly. Whether he agrees or not, we have to take action. We should be able to get good news from the exchange with Ansara. In any case, we can't go wrong by following the people in the Immortal Palace, Andrula affirmed. This is true. Garin thought for a moment and clapped his hands gently. Soon someone came in carrying a black metal box from the small building. 2 servants carefully placed the box on the white stone ground, then bowed to Garin and left. Garin took a step forward, flicked his finger on the keyhole, and opened the lid. There was another small box inside. He opened it again, and there were some finely crushed ice cubes inside. There was a crystal test tube in the white silk in the middle, with dark red liquid rippling inside. Garin took out the test tube and shook it at Andrula. The blood of immortality obtained from the demon elephant section. You really dare to take action? Aren't you afraid that they will come and attack you? Andrula said speechlessly. How dare you let your subordinates take care of you at will? I have mastered my skills, but I'm worried that I can't find an opponent, Garin sneered. I killed Clark and took away his things. I probably uprooted the elephant gates layout throughout the south. What's left is nothing but trash, not worth mentioning. Don't take it lightly. No. Andrila took the small box of immortal blood and felt a little emotional. It depends on what kind of news Ansara can give us. Rested in the manor for a few days. Galen and his party finally waited for Palash's reply, after 3 months. I don't know if I will take part in the operation after March, or if I need to think about it for 3 months. Or maybe the reply will be in March. The 3 of them were too lazy to wait any longer and rushed directly to the place agreed with Anceloa with the blood of immortality. Exchange the blood of immortality for information about the immortal palace and a precious secret technique. At the same time, it can be regarded as a complete settlement of all grievances. This is the agreement between Garin and Ansara. The 2 sides separated their subordinates and used encrypted messages as a means of communication without showing up at all. Ansara's caution has reached an extremely high level. After some bargaining, Garin and the other 2 got information about the immortal palace. At the same time, Garin also exchanged a special secret technique, the White Peacock. At the suggestion of the Nightmare King, the 3 used this secret method as the name of the small organization formed by the 3-person alliance, White Peacock. This secret method can use one's own energy and blood to set a mark on the enemy for a long time. Within a distance of 2 kilometers, the effect of the secret method will secretly produce a special smell that is difficult to conceal. Only martial artists who know this secret method can detect it. Especially during the day, people who have been possessed by the secret spell are as conspicuous as a peacock and cannot be concealed at all. This is a secret method that is purely used for tracking. It has no side effects and is very effective. Garin also invited Ansara to join White Peacock, but he refused. The old man became extremely cautious after being seriously injured and losing strength. After getting the blood of immortality, I immediately planned to retire. He probably asked someone to teach him, and then started to cultivate on his own. The 3 of them could only barely achieve their expected goals. Just follow the plan and go to the direction of Baigati according to Ansara's intelligence. A few months later. Pink and white flowers all over the mountains and plains are like a carpet of flowers, dyeing the entire hilly ground pink. Between the hills of the sea of flowers, a gray-white driveway winds and twists, like a slender white ribbon, cutting a route through the sea of pink flowers. On the white driveway, cars or carriages occasionally pass by, and the sound of car bells and car engines alternates one after another. In the afternoon, the sky showed a pale golden color, and the dark blue sky gradually appeared like a burning cloud. There is a hint of red in the gold color. The setting sun radiates from near to far, plating the white clouds into progressive colors, from golden red to light gold. Like countless progressive stairs. On the white driveway, a silver car sped slowly towards the capital city of Baigati. The speed of the car was extremely alarming, constantly overtaking other cars and carriages. A tall man with short hair was sitting on the window seat in the back seat of the silver car. The man was wearing a black suit, his hands were quietly placed on his knees, and his eyes were slightly closed as if he was dozing. This man's skin glowed with platinum and was extremely smooth. His face was not handsome, but he had a vaguely powerful presence that could not be ignored. There were 3 people in the car, and the driver was a handsome man with long black hair and a one-eyed patch. His temperament was gentle but sharp. There was another person sitting in the passenger seat with a cold face and a strong build. He looked exactly like the tall man sitting in the back row. The man driving the car looked at the scenery outside the car window. We've arrived at the Four Seasons Flower Road. This stretch of road is about 10 kilometers long. We're almost at Ansara, the capital of Baigati. He tilted his head and asked backwards. Any plans, Garin? The man sitting behind opened his eyes, his dark red eyes unusually calm and vast. I'll find a place to stay first, you decide for yourself. According to the information, people from the Immortal Palace will definitely come and wait for the night of the full moon. I just don't know how many people they will come. But no matter how many people they come, they will eventually show up on their own, so there is no need to worry about this. We just need to wait slowly. Just leave it alone. The long-haired man driving the car nodded. Don't take action. I'm going to see how many people in Immortal Palace weigh a few pounds first. Anyone who offends my holy elephant Galen will die. Garen's head jumped and he resisted the urge to hit. The strong man staring at the passenger seat growled. Nightmare, you'd better change back right away. The other Garen snorted coldly. Are you trying to provoke me? You need to think clearly about the consequences. If you offend me, you will offend the entire Bayun sect. Stop playing Nightmare. Andrilla, who was driving, said helplessly. Okay, okay. Garen finally raised his hands helplessly in a gesture of surrender. It's been a long time since I had so much fun. I don't know why, but when I saw Garen, I was particularly envious of his strong body and streamlined lines. Muscles. Andrilla shuddered. Last night in the hotel, he fell asleep with the soft and beautiful beauty in his arms at night. When he woke up in the morning, his strong and powerful body posture changed to a Galen hugging him. To be honest, Nightmare was unrivaled in beauty as a woman, and when he was with her, he would always get the greatest pleasure, but also the deepest fear. Just like what I experienced yesterday. When I think of him snuggling in the arms of Garen this morning, the other person suddenly kissed him affectionately. He almost vomited the acid water. If you continue to play like you did yesterday, I will never touch you again, Andrilla said seriously. Okay, okay, I'll pay attention, Nightmare replied with a lazy smile. Garen, who was sitting in the back row, was completely speechless. Faced with such a change in the Nightmare, even he himself had a hard time distinguishing the appearance, and could only tell the difference by smell. He was suddenly worried if the Nightmare disguised himself as him and went around causing trouble. Suddenly his eyes lit up. Nightmare, can you simulate any appearance? Of course, Nightmare nodded. Then have you ever seen anyone from the Immortal Palace? What do you mean? Nightmare frowned slightly. Andrilla also understood what Garen meant. A smile appeared on his face. A simple and effective way. This time the Silver Sect, the largest force in Bygatti, will also join in. There are also some messy local foreign forces. It will be up to you then. Nightmare nodded helplessly. Yes, yes, you know it's me who contributes the most. Those who are able work hard, Andrilla smiled. It's better if the people from the Immortal Palace don't come out, but once they appear. As long as it's not Immortal Fran, don't interfere with the others, Nightmare said lightly, especially the Firebird mother. That guy still owes me a hand. There was a faint red light in his eyes, and in his words there was an icy chill. What about you, Lila? What are your plans? Andrilla pondered for a moment. I have to make arrangements to prevent changes. It depends on your performance at that time. If everything goes well, it will be the time for me to appear on the stage. Tell me about the specific situation this time, Garen asked in a low voice from behind. According to Ansara's information, a collector in Ansala, the capital of Bygatti, took out an ancient mirror with strange inscriptions during a public welfare personal collection exhibition. The Immortal Palace suspected that it was a secret that had been circulated in ancient times. Wenjing, so we arranged for people to come and snatch it. The encrypted mirror carries the knowledge of ancient secrets and has always been the most coveted thing in the Immortal Palace. He paused and continued, the collector himself is the high priest of the silver section. He has good strength and stronger power. The people sent to guard the collection are the three most famous silver-level masters in Bygatti, and their strength has not been touched. Yes, but at least there should be a fighter level. In addition, there are soldiers on the periphery, and some heavy weapons are also very threatening if they are used. The Silver Sect invites various forces to participate in the collection exhibition, undoubtedly to promote its own strength. It is estimated that there will be forces in the dark. Another thing that deserves attention is the Demon Elephant section. However, it is unlikely that they will participate. After all, Galen, you have severely damaged their strength. It is unlikely that many powerful forces will be mobilized to participate for the time being. Garen nodded. In other words, the ones worth noting are the Silver Sect and the Immortal Palace. That's not certain. Maybe there will be masters like dark horses among the people, Andrila smiled. I also have a list of masters here, do you want to read it? Don't waste your time by talking about it, you idiot. Nightmare covered her face with her hands, her face began to slowly change, and her body began to gradually shrink, becoming slender and slender. Just like plasticine, it gradually molds itself into other shapes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 184. Although it was not the first time for the other two people to see this kind of transformation, they still couldn't help but cast their eyes over, with a hint of surprise still flashing in their eyes. What identity do you want to change this time? Andrila asked warily. Lila, you have lost weight. The Nightmare suddenly turned into a plump middle-aged beauty, reaching out to caress Andrila's face. Andrila was stunned for a moment, then her face turned red and veins began to appear on her forehead. If you dare to become my mother again, I'll be rude to you. Andrila was completely furious. The car was occasionally filled with the soft laughter of Nightmare. The car was noisy all the way, and Andrila and Nightmare could always cause various troubles. Garen was sitting in the back row and had to keep a straight face to prevent Nightmare from starting to act up when he saw him being a little more easygoing. In the afternoon, just before dark, the car arrived at a double-decker motel on the roadside. A few cars and carriages were parked sparsely in front of the hotel. The three of them got out of the car, asked the waiter to park the car to the side, and went directly to the first floor of the rather lively hotel. The space on the first floor is similar to that of an ordinary bar. Although there are not many people, they are all occupying tables and chairs in groups, and the entire first floor is occupied. In the black-ceilinged lobby on the first floor, most of the guests were passers-by. Some were whispering and sipping drinks. Some were holding maps and comparing them carefully. On a high semicircular platform on the first floor, a saxophone player was playing hard, clear music that was not very pleasant. The three of them walked around on the first floor, but couldn't find a place to sit. Wouldn't it be enough to just drive away the entire table? Nightmare said casually. This is already the scope of Ancilla security management. Ancilla security is notoriously strict. If you don't want to be targeted by the sheriff over there, it's best not to take drastic actions, Andrila whispered. He said, to make a big noise is to expose our whereabouts in advance. Garen also read the information and nodded in agreement. Just have something to eat and continue on your way. Go to the city early, there is no need to delay outside. If you really can't find a place, just buy something and go back to the car. Okay, Nightmare shrugged, and now he was back to looking like Stephen Ralph. Ah! A girl's voice suddenly came from beside Stephen. Garen and the two men immediately looked over. I saw a beautiful girl in a milky white dress looking at Stephen with her hand covering her mouth. The plate of ketchup she was holding spilled all over Stephen's clothes due to the impact. I'm sorry, the girl bowed and apologized with an apologetic expression. Judging from the material of her dress, it was obviously fine and high-end goods. There was a silver white belt tied around her waist, which was knotted and hung down from the left side. It highlights the slender waist even more. Forget it, it doesn't matter, Stephen frowned. He had clearly moved out of the way just now, but he didn't expect the girl to also move out of the way. As a result, The two of them moved in the exact same direction, and they collided directly. "Be careful when you walk." "Yes, yes," the girl blushed and nodded. Stephen's clothes were made of special materials. With a slight shake, all the ketchup was shaken off, and then wiped with a paper towel. It was as good as ever. The three of them watched the girl leave and return to her companion's seat. They were three young boys and girls who looked a little bourgeois. Watching the girl in the white dress sit back, they immediately started discussing the topic in a low voice. The center of the topic was clearly Stephen Ralph. The three of them thought that their voices were inconspicuous in the noisy hotel, but they didn't expect that the three of them, Garen, had extremely sensitive senses and could hear everything clearly. Among the three boys and girls, who were only 15 or 16 years old, one boy and one girl were obviously a little more frivolous. The girl in the white skirt was sitting on her seat with a slight smile on her face. "That man is so elegant. I sprinkled ketchup all over him, but he didn't say anything to me. Looking at his clothes, I suspected that he might be the eldest son of a big family." That look in his eyes by the girl in the skirt changed from her innocent temperament just now, and became a look full of love. The boy on the side said speechlessly, "Don't be crazy, everyone is going out. I am the only one who wants kittens and puppies like you. You can't sell the others no matter how much you market them. What are you talking about? Hurry up and eat. Can you stop showing off your affection in front of me?" The last girl was wearing a white light green plaid shirt and white jeans. Her appearance and temperament gave people a very clear and fresh feeling. She has short, flaxen hair, combed into a girly hairstyle with side bangs on her forehead. The most conspicuous thing is that there is a small brown squirrel lying next to her elbow, holding a big walnut and smashing it on the table. After eating, we have to hurry up and try to get directly to Ansira City today. I know. The two companions, a man and a woman, immediately responded in unison. On Garen's side, Nightmare went next to Andrila again, leaving him alone behind. Glancing at the three young people over there, they bought food and water and walked out directly. The guy had already filled up the car with gas and paid the bill. The three of them got back into the car, started it, and turned onto the driveway to Ansila. There was no conversation all the way until we were about to enter the outskirts of Ansira. The car suddenly stalled and stalled. "What's going on?" the half-asleep Nightmare asked in a low voice as he felt the car slowly stop. The car stopped working. "I don't know what's wrong with it." Andrila encountered the situation for the first time and reluctantly parked the car on the roadside. "Open the car door and walk out." Galen was sitting in the back seat and could see the thick white smoke coming out of the front window, and a strong smell of gasoline permeated the entire car. He opened the door and got out, standing on the grassy slope beside the driveway. "What's wrong? Can we still leave?" He frowned as Andrila opened the hood of the car and checked and fiddled with it inside. "I don't know, I don't understand maintenance either." Andrila looked at it for a while and shrugged to express her helplessness. "I still have a lot of clothes in the car. I don't want to carry them by myself," Nightmare complained. "Why is this car so useless? It can't even run on such a small road." Andrila could only express regret. Garen stood aside and looked at the car, suddenly missing Sulin a little. If Sulin were here, with his limited edition collection of vehicles, the chance of such a problem would be almost non-existent. Even if there is, that guy is also a master at repairing cars. Although the three of us are top experts, we can't be allowed to carry large and small bags to Ansila, right? Nightmare leaned against the car door, took out a cigarette, lit it with a match, and took a deep breath. "Just stop the car on the side of the road." This is the only way. Andrila began to sort out their belongings. Among the three, Nightmare brought the most things, including clothes, jewelry, cosmetics, and some small boxes containing inexplicable gadgets. Garan and Andrila had very little. They just brought a change of special clothes. In addition, there is a box containing money, which is the converted Bajati currency. Galen stood on the roadside to stop the car. He was tall, nearly 1.9 meters tall, with strong muscles and a serious face. When he stood on the roadside, one car after another passed by. Not only did he not stop, but he even went faster. "You can't. Let me do it." Andrila pushed aside Galen and stood on the edge, smiling and graceful. But the one-eyed dragon's eye patch looked even more domineering in the night. The smile at the corner of his mouth turned into a grin. A carriage just passed by, and when the coachman saw him, he suddenly became angry and whipped the horse's buttocks wildly. The carriage rushed past like a sharp arrow with its string unstrung. This happened to the cars passing by several times in a row, and the smile on Andrila's lips suddenly became a little stiff. "I'll do it." Nightmare sighed and walked out from behind the two of them. He is still dressed in the same gentlemanly manner, but it is much more normal than Garen and Andrila. After several cars passed by, a large four-wheel carriage finally stopped slowly. The carriage is all white, with silver letters printed on the body, KL. "Can I give you a lift?" Nightmare asked the old man driving the car loudly. "Get in the car," the old man pointed back with his riding crop. The three finally breathed a sigh of relief. They didn't want to use violence to rob other people's vehicles unless they had to. Although the three of them are not good people who keep their own rules, they are not here just to have fun as they please. The Silver Sect has too many spies in Bygatti. Once someone shows signs of being extraordinary, they will probably be notified to the intelligence department of the Silver Sect as soon as possible. The carriage is large and fully enclosed. As soon as the three people opened the car curtain, they saw three young men and women sitting inside. "Hi, handsome uncle," the girl in the white dress greeted Nightmare with a smile. "It's not a trivial matter for a car to break down in a place like this. Fortunately, you met our Miss Sophie's car. It's you." Nightmare suddenly showed a charming smile. "Thank you for your help. Otherwise we might really have to walk into the city." "You're welcome. I accidentally spilled ketchup all over you just now, so I'll just give you a ride as an apology," the blonde boy sitting on the side said with a smile. "And there's no need to thank us. This is the owner of the carriage." He pursed his lips at the last girl. The girl in the light green plaid shirt smiled. "When you go out, you should help each other. There is no need to thank you for such a small thing." There was also a little squirrel with a round belly lying on her shoulder. "My name is Katiosha. Where are you three going?" "We'll give you a ride. We booked a room at the Coconut Tree Hotel in the north of the city," Nightmare answered politely. "Coconut Hotel? I would like to ask, are you going to visit the Ancient Cultural Relics exhibition?" the girl asked immediately. The three Garens sat down facing the three girls. Hearing this, Nightmare nodded. "Yes, we came specifically to see the Ancient Cultural Relics exhibition. I heard that many treasures handed down from ancient times will appear in this exhibition. We are also collectors. This opportunity should not be missed." Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 185. It is said that many of the participants who came this time came with their own collections. They all wanted to communicate with colleagues, so the exhibition simply organized this event into an exchange meeting. The girl Katiosha said about antiques cultural relics, "My interest suddenly increased. Speaking of the cars going to Ansira on this road, 5 out of 10 are here for the cultural relics exhibition. It is said that the heart of the giant tree, the largest natural emerald in the world, will also appear at the exhibition, as well as the legendary demon Hababia. I heard it is one of the most famous millennium antiques." Babia's magic box? That is not an ordinary 1,000-year-old antique. It is said that any owner who gets it will get divorced due to marital problems. I don't know if it is true. The heart of the giant tree has heard of it, not that in the hands of one of the Earls of Weismann. Garen also became interested and took over the conversation directly. "That was a long time ago. A big event happened some time ago. For a time, the carriage was divided into two people chatting. Nightmare Andrila chatted with the boy and girl. Here Garen and Katiosha chatted with each other. After chatting for a while, Garen learned a lot of information and owners of secret Doom antiques from the girl. I have Tibetan friends all over the world, Katiosha said with a little pride. Part of it is my father's Tibetan friend relationship, and I just get recognition. Part of it is my own relationship. Since Mr. Galen he is from the Yalu Federation. He has such knowledge, which is rare even in the Federation. He must know about the Green Pine Auction Company, right? Green Pine Auction, Garen felt the name seemed familiar. Yes, it's a company run by my friend in the Federation. You can find some good stuff there. You can go and have a look when you have time. Tell me Katiosha's name when the time comes, and their boss will give you a discount, Katiosha Sarah said proudly. Boss Feinstein is a good friend I made in the Federation. Feinstein, Galen suddenly remembered the origin of the Green Pine Auction Company. Feinstein, is that the eldest girl with long pale blonde hair, nice skin, and blue eyes? You know her too, Katiosha was stunned. It's okay, but we haven't contacted him for a long time, Garen shrugged. She's in a bit of a bad situation right now. Katiosha suddenly looked at Garen with a strange look. Their family is a very traditional big family and they are very disapproving of her hobby of collecting antiques. Now it is said that because of new problems, Feinstein started auctioning off her favorite collection some time ago. I don't know. Something happened. Do you know the specific situation? I don't know, I haven't contacted her for a long time. Garen frowned slightly. He had a good relationship with the eldest lady, but he had never heard her say anything about his family. The other party didn't mention this to him at all. Then you should pay more attention. Katiosha looked at Garen with a strange expression. She did not believe that there could be a pure friendship between men and women. I'll pay attention when I get back, Garen nodded. Then what to do with your car? Katiosha asked. Just hire someone to pull him over later. Just bring the main things, Garen shrugged. In this way, if you are Feinstein's friend, then you are my friend. I will have someone behind the car tow it to the Coconut Tree Hotel for you. Thank you. On the other side, Andrila and Nightmare were separated from the two boys and girls respectively. They sat alone together and whispered to each other. The sound is very small, or almost no sound. The two of them just moved their lips, as if they were lip-talking. Garen asked Katiosha about Bygatti and the situation of this exhibition. Then he sat aside and fell silent, seeming to close his eyes and rest. He was actually listening to the people in the carriage talking, while reaching into his pocket and touching the golden sword holder he carried with him. This thing is still flowing out a steady flow of cool potential, but it is extremely thin. I heard that a cipher mirror will appear at this exhibition. I wonder if it's true, Nightmare suddenly asked Katiosha. It's true. It is said to be a rare treasure specially lent by the owner. I came here this time to admire and appraise this thing. The cipher mirror, that is a treasure that has not appeared for many years. She immediately began to explain the history of the cipher mirror, and she spoke incessantly. It was obviously rare to meet someone who was willing to listen to her, and she became a little excited. Garen sat aside and listened carefully. In fact, deep down in his heart, he doesn't have much need to break through his current limits. He is still young, and unlike Palasha, who is approaching his end, there is no need to worry. The old man's death has actually become an obsession until now. Now he just wants to find Xianflan and have a good fight with him. The statue of the god was completed, and he now had an unprecedentedly powerful state of mind. I can feel that I am obviously stronger now than before. In this cipher mirror exhibition, his only purpose is to fight with the people of Immortal Palace. Of course, it is best to find Immortal Fran. While Garen was quietly organizing his thoughts. Boom! Suddenly there was a muffled sound from the front of the carriage. What happened? I felt the car shake. Katiosha also suddenly stopped talking, her expression changed slightly, but only for a moment, and then she calmly returned to normal. Shayla, what happened outside? It's nothing, it's just that a small animal ran in front of the carriage and scared me. The old coachman's voice came from the front. It's better to be careful. Okay, ma'am. The three of Garen exchanged hidden glances. They all clearly heard the dull and brief sound of fighting outside. Obviously the opponent was eliminated in an instant, not by an order of magnitude. Suddenly Garen felt something was wrong. His chest was burning. He doubtfully pressed his chest, where he wore the book necklace given by the old man. The necklace was slightly hot at this time. Ever since he got this pendant, there have been no unusual changes. Although Xianflan seemed to have come here because of it. It's a pity that Garen has been researching for a long time, but he hasn't been able to find out any secrets. But now, the necklace is actually starting to get hot. What's wrong? Katiosha looked at Garen in confusion. It's nothing, I'm just a little distracted. Garen smiled. He vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Maybe I'm overthinking it, he said to himself. It seems that this Katiosha is not simple. The rumors of the fight outside just now are not weak, at least they are at the level of special forces. Just barely moved to grab it. The moment the sound came out, Katiosha's body tensed up for a moment, and she could explode with huge explosive power that was completely inconsistent with her body size at any time. Excuse me. Katiosha stood up and walked out to the front of the carriage, closing the door with her backhand. I sat next to the driver's seat as he drove slowly forward. Katiosha frowned and looked at the old coachman. Is there someone over there again? Well, Bai Yin taught him. It seems he doesn't want us to go there. Shayla coachman nodded and replied softly. Humph, the main force of the 5 and 5 of our 12-way team is mixed in, and the Silver Sect can't do anything to stop them. They are just screening their opponents now. The intelligence is quite good. Katiosha sneered. They reneged on the last peace talks, which caused huge losses to us. I will not swallow this hatred in vain. What are you going to do? Xiala asked with narrowed eyes. The main forces from the 5 groups are here. I'll see how the Silver Sect will deal with it. This time they are not just provoking us black snakes. As long as the Silver Cult Master doesn't take action, everyone else can be easily dealt with. It just depends on who can get the cipher mirror. Xiala nodded, obviously not looking like a coachman. In the car, Andrilla and Nightmare looked at each other, and Garen closed his eyes again. It seems that more and more people with ulterior motives are gathering in the capital city of Baigati. The carriage took more than half an hour to finally arrive at the Coconut Tree Hotel in Ansela. The streets of Ansela are bustling at night and seem to be as lively as during the day. There are many people strolling and relaxing at night. The 3 of them each had a room in the hotel. Katiosha bought a villa nearby and moved in directly. The name Katiosha was obviously not her real name, but Garen didn't care. This woman obviously came here with the same purpose as the others. Just like him, people from all walks of life with different ideas are also crowded into this prosperous city in the coming days. Ansira, a foreign capital full of white-domed buildings, is in a dark guest room on the upper floor of the tallest spire hotel in the city center. At this time, 2 faint figures, an old man and a young man, were sitting. The old woman was an old woman who was at least 80 or 90 years old. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, holding a black wooden cane in her hand. He was looking calmly at the young girl in front of him. The girl had some confusion on her face, but since the old man didn't speak, she remained silent. Just sitting quietly on the wooden chair. Neither of them spoke, there was only the sound of the ticking second hand of the clock on the wall. Soon, a faint sound of footsteps came from the door, and the person stood outside the door. Boom boom. Then the door clicked open automatically. A young man wearing a waiter's blue and white uniform walked in, pushing a bright silver dining cart. Guests, what you asked for has been delivered. The door bounced shut with a click. The moment it was closed, the whole room seemed to be cut off by something. The noise from the street outside the window suddenly seemed to disappear. The whole room was quiet, except for the quiet sound of the second hand on the wall. The young girl looked around uncomfortably. It seems unclear what is going on. Don't be nervous. The waiter's voice suddenly changed to that of an old man. He stretched out his hand to tear off his face, and immediately pulled off a thin layer of human skin mask, revealing the old face full of wrinkles underneath. As soon as I got the news that you were coming, I rushed over immediately. I didn't expect you to arrive earlier than I thought. The old man let go of the dining car, pulled up a stool and sat down slowly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 186. Julie, this old gentleman is my old friend from Bygatti, Tangian Cruise. The old woman introduced the identity of the visitor to the girl. He is also one of only 2 people like us out of tens of millions of people in Bygatti. The girl suddenly showed a hint of surprise. Looking at the old man, she happened to see him giving her a kind smile. I've heard your name for a long time, sweet little Julie. Okay, enough chatter, let's get straight to the point. The old woman finished her introduction. The silver mirror is a valuable treasure from ancient times. We cannot let it fall into the hands of the immortal palace. We must find a way to deal with this situation. The old man Tang Jin frowned. The silver mirror is called the cipher mirror among ordinary people. It is said that the ancient magic mirror secret method is recorded on it. The immortal palace will definitely send the main members here this time. It would be fine if it is the former admiral of Wiseman Gafade. We have many times we have fought against each other, and I am quite familiar with him. I am just afraid that I will be in trouble if I meet someone else. What about your local plans? There should be plans before we arrive, right? The old woman asked with a frown. Of course, the silver mirror has a seal, which must be unsealed before the real cipher text can be obtained. However, along with the cipher text sealed, there is also the most powerful and terrifying original nuclear will in ancient times. Once it is unsealed and the will is liberated, the world will be overturned. This was also the original plan of the immortal palace, so we found the timer in a targeted manner. As long as this is placed close to the silver mirror, the unblocking can be interrupted at the critical moment, the old man explained in detail. Then his eyes fell on the main force again. However, since you brought Julie here, the timer is naturally of no use. No, if it's the Firebird mother who comes this time, it's Julie, the old woman said solemnly. You don't know the danger of the original nuclear will. That thing is extremely dangerous. The fairy palace is playing with fire and burning itself. So we need to be prepared with both hands. Julie and all of us will face the people of the immortal palace head on. Only her telepathic nature can defeat the immortal palace that uses the blood of immortality. The timer must also be prepared secretly. Her final addition. They must not be allowed to succeed. Once the blockade is lifted, no one in the world can stop the will of the original nucleus. I thought that thing should have been lost in history. How is Julie now? How strong is her strength? The old man asked in a low voice. Julie hesitated, a little ashamed. My talent is not enough, and I am only at the 3rd level now. The old man's expression suddenly became strange and abnormal, and there seemed to be a hint of shame in his eyes. He took a deep breath, and it took him a long time to suppress the urge to curse in his heart. 3rd pole, not bad, already very good. Well, since it has been arranged, you can proceed as planned. We are secretly waiting for the people from the immortal palace to appear. The old woman nodded. At that time, be careful to minimize the impact on ordinary people around you. Julie asked hesitantly, Teacher, why don't you ask people from the silver sect to help? And this time I heard from my friends that there are many masters from all over the world. If they can encircle and suppress the immortal palace, they should be able to do it. It plays a big role, right? You don't understand. Ordinary people without talent are like elephants and ants facing the immortal palace. They are not even qualified to consume endurance, the old woman said seriously. The girl opened her eyes wide and looked suspicious. All telekinesis masters in Immortal Palace have a secret method that can spread coercion instantly. Anyone who sees them will be severely affected physically and mentally, or even collapse. With such pressure, Immortal Palace has never been afraid of the crowd tactics. The old woman sighed, but fortunately we also got the book. During these years, I have been instilling the telepathy power in you continuously. In fact, you already have a very powerful power, but you just don't know how to use it. I understand. Teacher, I will work harder. Julie nodded seriously. It's good that you understand. The old woman touched the girl's face with some distress. It's hard for you. You are only 19 years old and you have to bear so much pressure. It's okay. The girl tried to look relaxed. Teacher, you are the ones who have worked hard. You have been fighting against the Immortal Palace for so many years without anyone noticing, and no one can see your sacrifices and efforts. Compared with you, what does it mean that I have done so little? You don't understand. In fact, this is a dispute between our ideas, the old woman murmured. Okay, let's go rest. It's getting late. Remember that when intercepting a person from the Immortal Palace, you must lead him to a place with few people. Otherwise, ordinary people around him will not be able to withstand such damage. Once the power of telekinesis reaches its peak, even the elite geniuses among ordinary people cannot resist when they burst into their strongest form with all their strength. Therefore, no matter how powerful ordinary people are, you have to remember one thing: only talent can fight against talent. Blindly asking friends for help will only lead to harm them. But my friend said that the Silver Sect has a fighting master. Maybe. I don't know how many fighters have died at the hands of Immortal Palace. Julie finally stopped talking. Okay, go and rest. You are our hope. The old woman put away her stern expression and gently touched the girl's hair. Okay. Coconut Tree Hotel, top floor, deluxe suite. Garin stood in the middle of the room, his arms raised flat, and his whole body stood like a cross. His eyes were closed tightly, and his breathing seemed to be absent, matching the white gold skin color on his body. Like a standard metal statue. Boom, boom, boom. Please come in, Garin said lightly without opening his eyes. The door was slowly opened, and the Nightmare King Stephen Chiron walked in. Are you practicing again? Is something wrong? After closing the door, Stephen crossed Galen and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, opened the curtains and looked down. There is news from the Nantian Holy Fist section. It is a telegram from Palasha. Are you interested in hearing it? Say it. Garin slowly clasped his arms in the middle. His movements were extremely slow, but a strong wind filled the room strangely. Thick black curtains kept rising. The structure of the Immortal Palace is actually divided into two parts, outsiders and elders. Stephen found a chair and sat down. The outsiders are the top figures who joined later, such as Anceluto, such as the former Viceman General Ge Fei. Virtue. And the real elders are actually two people, Firebird Mother and Fairy Fran. What's the difference? The difference is huge. Stephen smiled. It is said that the elders of Asgard have been active on the international stage decades ago. You and I were not born at that time. And those who joined later did not know how to change. How many people were there? Didn't Palasha and Cienflan both suffer losses? Garin opened his eyes and asked in confusion. I've seen Palasha's strength, even though it's not his strongest personality. You don't think that cold personality is Palasha's strongest state, do you? Stephen shook his head and smiled. The true strongest state of the White Bird Holy Fist has actually been broken in the duel with Cienflan. The three personalities merged into one, which is his most perfect state. The three personalities are actually equivalent to having the same person. The three geniuses of memory, Palasha, move towards the three aspects of martial arts. The good side takes the route of head-to-head confrontation, the evil side takes the route of secret magic and trickery, and the indifference is responsible for the integration and transformation of the two. When the three merge into one, Palasha Shah is truly in his strongest state. At that time, he is a well-deserved holy fist. This was the first time Garin heard this statement. No wonder I felt that the White Bird Holy Fist didn't have that majestic temperament. I heard a senior mention that he is a yoga master in Lanzhou. He once saw the form of Palasha's Holy Fist. It is said that every punch and kick has the power of secret methods. His 178 secret methods is actually the special effect of the 178 styles of his Holy Fist form. But in the normal state, it can only be activated in the form of secret techniques. Steven revealed another shocking secret. Every punch and kick has the power of secret magic. So, what Palasha said in March, Garin was shocked, and at the same time, he immediately thought of the reply he wrote before leaving. Who knows, Steven shrugged. But you're not bad either. Hailed as the next generation of Holy Fists by the entire Southern secret martial arts world, Holy Elephant Galen's reputation has spread to the Northern Martial Arts Alliance. You do know the situation in the Federation very well. There's no way. It's a country with the most martial arts and the strongest fighters in the world. Which martial arts practitioner wouldn't pay attention? But I heard what Andrila said. Palasha's Holy Fist form was destroyed. Obviously, Immortal Fu, it will definitely not be easy for Lan. This is an opportunity. Garin frowned slightly. Let's just see this time. People in Immortal Palace are all perverts. Maybe the injury will be cured by now. 3 days later, the exhibition was held as scheduled. A hall with a golden ceiling and a black-gray floor. Black pillars stand on the ground. There is a transparent glass cube space in the middle of the pillars, which contains the collection of this exhibition. Each pillar is a collection. There are a total of hundreds of such pillars in the hall, more or less surrounded by crowds of visitors. Garin was wearing a black suit, holding a cup of light green hot tea in his hand, and was standing quietly in front of a black pillar on the edge. His eyes fell on an antique vase in the pillar. This is a white porcelain blue patterned narrow neck bottle. It looks like an enlarged version of a medicine bottle containing elixirs. It has complex sky blue patterns on it, and there are exquisite and unusual figures of human activity on the fat belly of the bottle in the middle. There were several antique lovers around him who were also admiring the vase. This is a rare treasure that traveled across the ocean from an ancient eastern country. An old man with gold-rimmed glasses sighed in ecstasy. Typical jade pot spring vase, look at the smooth texture and bright patterns. The jade pot spring bottle is an antique used by ancient eastern countries to store wine. It is really luxurious to be able to make a wine container so exquisite. In comparison, I prefer the tribal civilization utensils of Wuxing's. The rough and mysterious beauty is more attractive. A lady sighed sincerely. The ancient eastern countries don't just have porcelain vases. There are also many exquisite antiques and antiques with historical heritage. There are also many that have a sense of mystery, such as the plum blossom silver cup over there. The old man who had been wearing glasses was dissatisfied. The two began to argue quietly. Soon, new people joined in. Garin listened quietly to the discussion of several people, changing his position from time to time. He could hear the fierce debate when he almost walked to any black pillar. Some people doubt the authenticity of the collection, some have doubts about the value of the collection, and some are directly preparing to contact the owner of the collection to purchase the collection they like. The exhibition has just started and the atmosphere is already very good. Garin did not see the Nightmare King and Andrila. They each had their own arrangements and methods. The three of them just aim for a common goal, but the way to achieve the goal is different because of their different personalities. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 187. Standing in the hall, Garen walked around casually admiring the collections in the black columns. Leaving behind an exquisitely carved hollow gold bow, he walked to a row of guardrails beside the hall wall. Inside the guardrail are thicker black columns, which hold more valuable collections. Garen took a few steps and stopped beside a group of lively college students. These college students were wearing uniform black and blue uniforms, and there were 8 of them standing together. 3 boys and 4 girls. They seemed to be having a heated debate about the collection. The blue wings of Antaci represent freedom and joyful bliss. The perfect kingdom of heaven that yearns for the sky is a mythical symbolic item that has been circulated for a long time in Antaci. Only the great nobles are qualified to own and build it, one the girl with blue ponytail said with a solemn expression. It can't be the small businessman family you mentioned. That's true as usual, but this one is different. Look at this part of his body. It's the famous Asha mark, which was the most famous business alliance at that time. There are also some special details that can also tell about his birth, such as here, and there. Another boy with white curly hair retorted gently and unquestionably. I think Kilian is right. At that time, ordinary people were not allowed to build such things. Perhaps it was secretly built and collected by someone at that time. Just like many wealthy ladies nowadays like to attend drinking parties with early morning revelry. The students were divided into 2 sides, each supporting 2 people. Garen stood to one side and quietly admired the collection they were debating. It was a sky blue single-wing sculpture. It is more than 1 meter high and 2 meters wide, and it looks like it is flying. The feather texture is carved extremely delicately and realistically. Just like real giant eagle wings. Garen could tell at a glance that this was one of the antique imitation techniques that the old man once talked about. Although he couldn't take a closer look, a subtle spot on the wing base made him suspicious. Involuntarily, Garen frowned, his eyes stopping at what looked like cracks on the base. The crack was actually not a crack, but was made deliberately. Presents a twisted S-shape. Did you see it too? A white-haired old gentleman next to him seemed to have noticed where Garen was looking. He was wearing a black tuxedo and stood upright and powerful. He walked to Garen and stood next to him, looking at the azure wings casually. The blue wings are rumored to represent freedom and the kingdom of God. Unfortunately, this one is just a fake, the old man sighed. I'm actually not sure, I'm not as sophisticated as you. Garen smiled humbly. Not bad, it's already very good. The old man shook his head. How much do you know about the Antaz civilization? Can you tell me about it? Understanding doesn't count, I just read relevant information in some classics. Garen selectively talked about the information about the ancient civilization before Bygatti. The old man suddenly became interested. You know a lot. Then tell me, what class of collection is this blue wings a replica of? Judging from the pattern texture and detailed carvings, I feel that the small businessman copied it for his own collection. Galen expressed his opinion directly. No, if it was a small businessman's collection, would he dare to engrave it with the emblem of the royal family at that time? The old man shook his head. The royal emblem doesn't mean anything. You don't understand the strict laws at that time. You will be beheaded if you use the noble heraldry indiscriminately, let alone the royal heraldic symbol, the old man said solemnly. That's because you don't understand the special situation at that time. If I'm not wrong, this thing must have been made during a special period at that time. Antaci was already shaky at that time, the political power building was about to collapse, and the royal family had long since lost such a strong binding force. Yes, Garen shook his head slightly to express his objection. How did you determine its specific era? This is a fake after all. How do you know that counterfeiters will not tamper with the original appearance? Obviously, the shape of this wing is about to spread out and fly. Such blue wings are everywhere, but you didn't notice that there is a trace of heaviness and hesitation in it. The point is here. Garen pointed at the root of the blue wing and said carefully. Do you see the shape of the wing base? These are the wings of a red eagle. Red eagle, the old gentleman was slightly stunned. He had never paid attention to the prototype of the blue wings. The blue wings were carved by the royal family's sculptors using blue eagles domesticated by the royal family. Blue eagles cannot be found in the outside world, so outsiders can only use the closest red eagle wings as a substitute. It's a pity. After all, there are still subtle differences between the two. And only in a special period, the sculptors of Bygatti will use red sculptures to imitate palace supplies. Garen shook his head regretfully. Your observations are very careful, and your knowledge also surprises me. But you still didn't notice one thing, the inscription on this collection. The old gentleman was still not convinced. There are 3 symbols engraved on the inscription, which represent the 3 participating sculptors. And coincidentally, I recognize the symbol. It is the symbol of Robert Negan, the most famous royal sculptor of the famous azure wings. This doesn't mean anything, old gentleman. Garen shook his head in denial. What about you? Whose opinion do you agree with? The old gentleman suddenly turned his head to face a female student who came over to listen unknowingly. This is a pretty girl wearing a blue and black school uniform and white denim pants. She had obviously been listening in rapt attention just now, but was suddenly hit by the old man. She seemed to have no reaction and was a little confused. I think it makes sense. Don't be nervous, kid. The old gentleman lowered his voice kindly. I saw your gaze just now. Among so many people here, only the 3 of us noticed several abnormalities in this blue wing. You listened. It's been so long, tell me what you think. Garen stood aside and looked at the girl. He is 18 or 19 years old, with a delicate face, delicate and fair complexion, and long black shawl hair like a piece of fine silk. She stood to one side, dark and cramped, giving people a very innocent feeling. Especially her long legs, which were slender and round, and the thin fabric clearly outlined the tight curves of her hips and thighs. You're too nervous. The old man shook his head. Relax a little and think about it carefully. You should be a student at Bygatti Women's University, right? It's not bad to be able to see so much at this age. You have to believe in yourself. Garen and he both looked at the girl now, waiting for her answer. The girl hesitated. What both gentlemen said makes sense, but I think this azure wings should indeed be the work of the royal engraver during peacetime. I remember a detail. It seems that the royal family at that time gave it to the royal family who was about to go to the territory. My disciple's blue wings have undergone subtle changes. As soon as she finished speaking, she heard gentle applause in front of her. She raised her head and saw the 2 people in front of her looking at her with admiration. You noticed a detail that none of us paid attention to. The old gentleman smiled. I didn't expect that an ordinary female student could have such erudite knowledge. Can you tell me your name? Cute child. My name is Upinai. The girl lowered her head in embarrassment and her face turned red. She was obviously not good at facing compliments from outsiders. Upinai. The old man took out a black business card from somewhere and handed it to the girl. Go on, here's my business card. Upinai took the business card in a daze, but there was nothing on it except a big eye symbol. Keep it in your collection. This card will bring you good luck when you are in trouble. The old man winked at the girl mysteriously. Garen stood aside, quietly watching the old man's trick. Obviously, this old man may be a big shot who hides his identity. This can be seen from the vaguely protective bodyguards scattered around him. Congratulations, lovely Miss Upinai. It seems that this old gentleman is not an ordinary visitor. He smiled kindly at the little girl. Upinai's face turned slightly red. She held the business card and didn't know what to say for a while. What about you? Is it interesting to pretend to be mature at such a young age? Young people should behave like young people. The old man looked at Garen with admiration. Your knowledge is about the same as mine. I never thought that there would be children like you among the younger generation today. He also handed over a black business card. This is for you too. Garin looked at the business card handed over by the old man, smiled slightly, and was about to speak. Who is this? Suddenly, a loud roar came from outside the exhibition. Alert! The sound stopped suddenly. It seemed as if it was cut off by something. The people in the exhibition suddenly became noisy, and people were commotion uneasily. Some figures with bodyguards quickly gathered all their people to protect themselves. The same thing happened to the old gentleman here. Within a few seconds, 7 male and female bodyguards in different clothes quickly formed a circle around him, and at his signal, they protected Garin and the girl named Upani. Stay there and don't move, the old man told Garin and Upani calmly. Garin and the girl both nodded quickly, looking a little nervous. Miga, go out and check the situation, be careful, the old man whispered to a bodyguard. Okay, sir. A cold-faced man with a hooked nose nodded and left the crowd, carefully walking toward the door against the wall while taking out a black pistol in his hand. There were several people who were doing the same thing as him. Garin also had a solemn and forced expression on his face. It looks like it's about to start. He didn't want to show signs of abnormality early and be targeted. Otherwise, the advantage of darkness that you worked so hard to create in the first place will be wasted. He looked through the gaps between the bodyguards around him and saw the surrounding situation. The group of students next to them were also led by a middle-aged man to hide in a corner. Their faces were curious, frightened, and even excited. Several middle-aged people not far away seemed to be extremely dissatisfied at this time. They were pulling out their guns and ordering their subordinates to cooperate with the exhibition personnel to maintain order at the venue. At this time, the security personnel responsible for the exhibition also came out. Under the leadership of several team captains, they calmed down the guests at the venue. At the same time, a group of people also walked out of the door cautiously. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 188. Outside the venue, on the central square between the Coconut Tree Hotel and the exhibition building. There are more than 10 bright yellow street lights scattered in the gray circular square. At this time, some of these street lights had been completely extinguished, as if they had been destroyed by someone. There are 2 white stone pillars built side by side in the center of the square, 15 meters high. There are 2 exquisite human-shaped bronze statues erected on the top of the stone pillars. One is a noble girl holding a whip in hand, and the other is a gorgeous knight riding a war horse. Below the knight statue, next to the stone pillar. At this time, some security personnel in blue uniforms gathered at the venue. Some of them were squatting on the ground, checking the 2 guards who were suddenly unconscious on the ground. There were some passers-by watching the excitement gathered around, and the atmosphere seemed extremely lively. 2 black and white striped police cars suddenly stopped in the square. The doors opened and closed, and 2 police officers stepped out. The leading man had a gloomy face, and one of his eyes was actually a prosthetic eye, showing an abnormal pale white eye. At a glance, the man saw several men and women in colorful clothes standing next to the unconscious person. When he saw the beautiful woman in a white skirt, his intact eye suddenly shrank, and then he quickly recovered. Normal. He strode towards the direction of the unconscious person. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. 2 police officers separated the crowd around him. The moment the man with the prosthetic eyes passed the woman in the white dress, his steps paused slightly. You guys move really fast, he snorted in a low voice. We are not interested in playing such small tricks yet, the woman said with disdain. It seems you are very confident. I can't compare to you, the policeman with the prosthetic eyes smiled coldly. The 2 quickly moved away from each other, and he walked to the unconscious man, squatted down, and began to check. The woman in the white dress stopped looking and withdrew from the crowd. Several people naturally gathered behind her. One of them was an old man holding a cane. "Is everyone here?" He glanced at the man with prosthetic eyes in the crowd from a distance. "That's almost it? A total of 5 main forces have arrived. When will we start?" The woman in the white dress nodded and answered. "Let's see the situation clearly." The old man's voice was like a gnat, but it reached the woman's ears clearly. "The trouble now is not the chaotic forces that caused this chaos. Our main opponent is the Silver Sect. Keep an eye on them. But we can't take it lightly either. I know that Katiusha and Wendy are already guarding the target. Although the key opponent is the Silver Sect, we can't let some little guys take advantage," the woman in the white dress said with a smile. On the other side, a group of exhibition guests were walking out of the entrance of the venue. Among these people, Katiusha was standing behind 2 friends, looking calmly at the situation outside. "Let's go, there's nothing to see." Someone outside tried to break in, but was driven away by the guards, but the guards were also knocked unconscious. The brown-haired woman in front of her said boredly, "This place is really messy." "It's really messy." The last girl had short, dull red hair and an ordinary face, looking like she hadn't had enough sleep for a long time. "There are thick dark circles under the eyes. Dressed like a street gangster. I have lived here for so many years, and there are troubles almost every week. I don't know if there is anything wrong with those 2 people." "Well, go back and continue to enjoy the exhibition, sisters. I saw Sheriff Bian coming. He must be fine. She is one of the collectors who sold her collection to the owner of the exhibition at this exhibition, but unlike other collectors, she simply sold it to the owner because she was short of money. I am qualified to participate in the exhibition this time because my collection is on display." But she herself was so active because she wanted to catch a rich man. Katiusha glanced at the red-haired girl speechlessly. If she hadn't been the original owner of the encrypted mirror, she wouldn't have taken the initiative to get close to this guy. As for the other woman, it was one of the main players with her, Wendy. The 3 of them were about to turn around and return to the venue. Suddenly there was a muffled sound behind him. "Get down," a man roared. Bang! A large ball of yellow flames exploded in the center of the square, and white smoke spread in all directions along with the shock wave. Some innocent people screamed and ran away, and 2 vehicles that were passing by the square were overturned. There were also several carriages with frightened horses, and the crazy neighing of horses was mixed with the sound of wheels. Suddenly, the originally harmonious square fell into chaos. 6 or 7 people lay sparsely in the center of the explosion, their lives and deaths unknown. And just as the white smoke was about to dissipate, several white shadows silently rushed towards the door of the venue. "Do it!" At the same time, the 3 people on the woman in the white dress dispersed at the same time and rushed to the back of the venue very quickly. Beep! A sharp siren sounded from the venue. In the venue, Garin stood in the middle of the protection of the bodyguards, listening to the sudden explosions outside, and then the sirens. Suddenly I knew someone had started taking action. The exhibition suddenly became a little chaotic. Several people at the gate were knocked away and rolled down immediately, and several white figures rushed in quickly. "Go straight to the black stone pillar in the center. Court death." With a cold roar, 3 figures rushed forward to intercept Bai Ying. Each of them caught the right one, and rushed directly into a place out of sight to start a fight. Bang bang bang. Someone fired one after another, and the sound of gunfire gradually became denser from sparse. The venue was in chaos, with screams and sounds of pain everywhere. Some guests with bodyguards shrank into corners, and other guests who wanted to be protected gathered around them. Soon the venue became quiet, and the place that was once crowded with people became empty. Except for a dozen corpses lying on the ground, all the visiting guests retreated to corners and hid themselves. Garin saw Oppenai's pale face and uncontrollable panic in her eyes. She looked outside from time to time, as if she was worried about her classmates. The group of college students were squatting not far away, using the stone pillars of the booth to cover themselves. It seems much safer this way. The two timid girls were sobbing softly. Everyone was squatting on the ground and basically couldn't see clearly what was going on outside. There were only a few bodyguards standing around with solemn expressions and pistols in their hands. The dull sounds of fists and feet, as well as the sound of gunfire, were heard constantly from inside and outside the venue. From time to time there were violent vibrations hitting the walls of the venue. Soon, with an angry roar, a white shadow covered in blood rushed out and flew out from the side window of the venue. Broken glass was scattered all over the floor. He stole the thing. Stop him, a dark-skinned man followed closely behind, smashed the wall on the side of the venue with a few punches, and chased after him with anxious strides. Ta-ta-ta. There was a burst of intense submachine gun fire, occasionally mixed with the blast of shotgun blasts. The sound of gunfire was chaotic, and it seemed that many people were shooting at the same time. Outside the venue, two groups of hostile forces were fighting madly. The small metal box of the cipher mirror was snatched back and forth from the hands of both sides, constantly changing hands. The three silver masters of the silver sect are all fighting masters, and they cooperate with several third-level sharpshooters. Face to face with Katayusha's group of people who snatched the cipher mirror, the four people here are all well-trained sharpshooters. At the same time, they cooperate well. Each one of them is very agile in their movements. They are obviously speed types like killers. He didn't have the temperament of a fighter, but he was able to coordinate with special weapons, and he was able to temporarily restrain the masters of the silver sect. Their main force was a woman in a white dress with a calm face, holding two enlarged silver pistols. While moving at high speed, she shot three silver fighters one by one. The pistol was so powerful that each shot could punch a fist-sized hole in the concrete wall. The silver sect is headed by a big black man who looks like an iron tower. He holds a black buckler and can accurately block any bullets fired at him, and any enemy who approaches him will be easily knocked away by him. Give up, Chris, the black man blocked the shot of the woman in the white dress. He was knocked back several steps, and there was a small hole in the shield. Even if you get the things, you can't take them out of the city. Strong shield Mafina, it's not up to you to decide whether you can take it out or not, the woman in the white dress sneered, firing continuously with one hand, and changing the magazine instantly with the other hand like magic. You three being can't stop us. Humph, don't you understand? Since we dare to put it on display, we must be fully prepared, Black Fighter Mafina sneered. You have it, don't we? Bang. Another ball of grenade flames exploded. The cipher mirror box was shaken so high that it was thrown away. Both sides did not look towards the box at the same time, but decisively attacked each other. Obviously they want to kill the opponent while the opponent's attention is attracted. Boom. Clang. Mafina's forward body suddenly stopped, and the strong shield in his hand blocked another bullet. They both had the same thoughts. At this moment, the box in the air was rolling and about to fall. Call. A faint sound of wind suddenly sounded, and a black figure jumped up behind Chris and flew towards the box like a flying swallow. On the other side, two white shadows rushed out from behind Mafina at the same time, arriving at the box almost at the same time as the other party. Bang! No one succeeded in getting the box, and it landed firmly on the ground. Silver Cult Master, one of the white figures suddenly exclaimed, and the three of them flew out in mid-air. Each fell to the ground. The two white figures stamped out several footprints on the stone floor before they could completely offset the huge impact. When they stood still, the others saw clearly the true faces of the two people. They were two middle-aged people, a man and a woman. On their right arm sleeve is a tattoo of a coiled black snake. Didn't you go to 5-star continent? How is that possible? The man in white whispered in disbelief. The shadow on the other side stood still, revealing the figure of a middle-aged black-haired man. The man's face was ordinary, but his skin had a vague sheen like silver. The most conspicuous thing was his left cheek, where there was a dark red birthmark, like a dark red flame. The man stood with his hands behind his hands, looking at the two people opposite him with a calm expression. "If you want to rob something in my Bean headquarters, you Black Snake couple are quite courageous." He suddenly took a step to the left, and there were two deep bullet holes in the wall behind him. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 189. Stop talking nonsense. I've heard of the name of the Silver Cult Master for a long time, and it just so happens that today we, the Black Snake, are going to learn about it, the woman of the Black Snake couple shouted sharply. All hands on deck. Suddenly, the entire square was completely plunged into a hail of bullets. Black Snake's gunmen suddenly poured out from all directions and fired wildly at the Silver Cult leader. But he avoided it easily and casually. The Black Snake couple also held firearms and shot at the people of the Bean section in conjunction with Chris's shooting. The people of the Silver sect were completely suppressed for a while and couldn't get out. Only the leader of Bean took a light step east and west, and actually stared at the bullets rushing towards the box. The two Black Snakes were so angry that they threw away their firearms and rushed forward. The three of them fought quickly in the square. In just a few seconds, the female Black Snake was hit by a palm and flew backwards, and the male Black Snake was also forced to retreat directly. Seeing that the box was about to be caught by the Silver Cult leader. Suddenly, a bullet that was obviously empty hit the floor in front of the box. Strangely, the bullet did not penetrate the stone slab, but actually rebounded and hit the leader directly in the face. Bang! The bullet actually exploded and turned into a small ball of flame, engulfing the Silver Cult leader. The female Black Snake sneered and wiped the blood from her forehead. "This is the first time I have been so seriously injured. Let you try the special snake bite bullet." The air wave generated by the explosion once again blew the box up high and flew into the distance. The leader of Bean groaned and immediately covered his face, but was still slightly injured. "You are looking for death." He actually ignored the box and rushed directly towards the Black Snake duo. Both sides are the most powerful masters in Bugatti, and each has a prominent reputation. The Silver Sect is extremely powerful in Bugatti, while the Black Snake is a top killer organization famous in nearby countries. Neither side is a simple character, and whoever comes out is an absolute hero. Meeting here all at once was something that neither party had expected. The two sides have long wanted to compete with each other, and this time is just an opportunity. Black Snake was originally a top killer who didn't care about his life. When he saw the leader of Bean rushing towards him, he immediately got what he wanted. His eyes turned red and he rushed over with bloodthirsty. At this time, some of the subordinates who lacked strength were almost exhausted, leaving only some who were good at it and clever enough to hide and confront each other with injuries. The main battlefield is to watch the showdown between the bosses on both sides. The secret attack plan turned into a head-on confrontation, which Black Snake did not expect. However, Black Snake had no intention of avoiding the Silver section. Their sneak attack ability was not very strong, but their ability to violently rob and kill was second to none in the nearby killer world. The two sides were entangled, with dull gunshots heard from time to time, and there was a stalemate for a while. The surrounding ground was trampled and exploded into pieces, and street lamps broke and collapsed from time to time. Bang! A ball of flame exploded directly between the three of them, and the three of them separated. After each adjusting their breath, the three of them were preparing to charge forward again. Suddenly, a red figure shot towards the cipher mirror box from the side. Court death. Leader Bean and Black Snake were furious at the same time, as someone actually dared to steal the cipher mirror in front of the three of them. This is an absolute provocation to their majesty. Without any consideration, the three of them took action at the same time. Leader Bean rushed over, and Black Snake's two bullets accurately hit the red shadow. Boom! The two bullets exploded at the same time, exploding into two balls of red flame. Almost at the same time, the silver cult leader stretched his hands straight towards Hong Ying. His palms were covered with silver gloves, and he brought up a violent wind cyclone. He was not afraid of the exploding fireball. It penetrated Hong Ying's chest and actually wanted to tear it in half. Laugh! A red sword light flashed. Ah! The leader of Bian howled miserably and quickly retreated, even faster than before. At the same time, a circle of thin red lines spread in all directions instantly. Almost in the blink of an eye, they touched the two black snakes. The two of them exclaimed at the same time and backed away wildly. The flames gradually dissipated, and a handsome man with white hair stood there quietly. In his hand he held a long sword that shone with red light, and several strange runes on the sword were flowing with crystal-like luster. Hiss! The man's red sword was lying in front of him, and he stretched out his hand to wipe the blade of the sword. The world groans, and the spirits are disillusioned. Call! His eyes instantly lit up with red fire. A huge and terrifying mental pressure suddenly exploded, sweeping across the entire square like a storm. If someone can look directly at the source of this pressure, they can see that it is a huge red peacock, its huge red tail feathers gently fluttering in the air, sprinkling dots of red sparks from time to time. In the venue, Garen's heart moved, and he could already feel the huge terrifying mental pressure coming from outside. This pressure is familiar. Maybe it's time to take action. He glanced at the people around him. The old gentleman was muttering something with his eyes closed, and he seemed to be holding something in his hand. The girl Opinai stood uneasily behind the old gentleman, her eyes a little frightened. The explosions and gunfire coming from outside made the survivors in the venue even more afraid to act rashly. Many of them are elites in the city, and some of their identities are involved in higher government levels. Because of their trust in the government and the Silver Sect, everyone is waiting for the chaos outside to calm down. Garen carefully observed the remaining guests and found no sign of Nightmare and Andrilla. I don't know where these two people are hiding. Don't worry, trust the government. Garen looked at the frightened Upani and comforted him softly. Upani swallowed and nodded. Yes, this is near the headquarters of the Silver Section. They will be able to react quickly and the situation here will be calmed down soon. The old gentleman nodded in agreement. Believe in the government. This sentence is very profound. He looked at Galen with admiration, as if you are very good and I think highly of you. Garen couldn't laugh or cry in his heart, and was about to get up and take action. Suddenly, several extremely large amounts of mental pressure surged out again, only slightly inferior to the Fire Sparrow Mother. This is a change in momentum that only a fighter level can vaguely feel through their keen five senses. Fire Sparrow Mother. I didn't expect you to come out, a thin old woman's voice came from outside. Sure enough, it's him. Garen knew it in his heart. After hesitating for a moment, he decided to follow the agreed code and wait for Andrilla to take action first. He gathered his thoughts again and waited quietly. Outside the venue, Katyusha and the original owner of the encrypted mirror were hiding behind the wall behind the entrance to the venue. Carefully look outside. The situation on the field at this time made her feel cold. At this time, the square seemed to have been bombarded by bombers in turn. Everywhere was in a mess, and the soil under the stone slabs was blown up in all directions. There are potholes everywhere, stone pillars are broken, and the sculptures at the top have fallen to one side. The black street lights were all neatly cut off. There was a strong smell of gunpowder in the air. Both the Black Snake and the Silver Sect were seriously injured by the mysterious man who suddenly appeared. She was the only one left in the Black Snake's five-pronged force. Wendy and the other three were either seriously injured and killed, or they had fled away. The two bosses, Black Snake, were also seriously injured. Their left arms were cut off in an instant during the confrontation. Not only them, the Silver Sect was even worse. The black man named Jiandun, Mafina, and the two fighters were seriously injured in the red line just now and fell to the ground. They didn't know whether they were alive or dead. The silver cult master himself had his hands broken at the wrist level, and blood was dripping down his sleeves. He gritted his teeth and stared at the fire sparrow mother, with fear and disbelief in his eyes. The man in front of him, faced with the siege of many masters, casually killed each one with his sword as if he were killing a chicken. That kind of hallucination like red light actually has extremely terrifying lethality. Whether it's bullets, explosions, or close combat, all attacks end in vain with just a flash of the red line. All the masters on the field were slaughtered like livestock in front of this man. And everyone who saw him, except for the leader himself and Black Snake, was so stiff that it was extremely difficult to even move. If it hadn't been for another wave of people who suddenly appeared behind them, they would have been completely destroyed in front of this person. Firebird Mother, I didn't expect you to come out. At this time, 10 meters in front of the Fire Sparrow Mother, 4 white-haired old men in black were standing. Next to them stood a brown-haired girl with a delicate face. The girl had 2 golden metal claws in her hands, holding them. The 5 fingers directly extended into a large length, like 10 cold spikes. It was one of the white-haired old women who spoke. She stared at the white-haired man with a stern face. There were 3 other old men like her. They wore a dark gold badge on their chests, with a pattern of 3-headed sea snakes engraved on it. "It's you again," Firebird Mother frowned, as if she was reminded of bad memories. "I almost failed last time, but you actually dare to appear in front of me a second time. The silver mirror is not something you should get involved with," the old woman said solemnly. "Julie, it's up to you." "Leave it to me," the brown-haired girl replied softly. I don't know how long it took, but Garen was hiding in the venue and gradually heard the sounds outside becoming quiet. Teams of soldiers and special police officers who had previously come from various places to support them did not make any sound at this time for some unknown reason. For some reason, he subconsciously touched the area on his chest where he originally wore the book pendant given to him by the old man. However, because he was afraid of being damaged in the battle, he hid it in the room safe of the Coconut Tree Hotel in advance. Put it together with the golden sword holder. "What's going on? Why is there no sound outside?" the old man asked in a low voice, confused. "I don't know, but don't rush out yet." Garen shook his head. "If it's really safe, someone should come in and let us know. You're a pretty calm kid." "Not bad. I'll treat you to a drink when we're done. I just got 2 bottles of good wine from Tina Winery yesterday," the old man said without any rush. Boom. Before he finished speaking, the door of the entire venue, along with the surrounding walls, was blasted open by an invisible force. The situation in the square outside was completely exposed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 190. People in the exhibition venue all lowered their heads, waiting for the smoke and dust to dissipate before anyone could clearly see the situation in the square outside the venue. A white-haired man holding a red sword was walking towards the venue step by step. In front of him, there was a brown-haired girl struggling to stand up from the ruins. Obviously, the door on the wall just now was knocked open by this girl. The second thing that is even more surprising is that the entire square is full of seriously injured or unconscious people, and there are also many corpses with mutilated limbs. Among them were people from the Silver Sect and some whose clothing origins were unknown. The ground was full of traces of explosions and bullets, and there was a strong smell of gunpowder in the air. The people in the venue suddenly became commotion. Some people quietly tried to escape from the blasted gap, but as soon as they got up, they were shot to the ground by 2 silenced bullets. Looks like we have to wait for another day to drink the wine tonight. The old man took a breath and murmured in a low voice. Didn't you say you should trust the government? Garin asked funnily. Then you have to choose the right time. The old man rolled his eyes at him silently. You kid, be careful later. You follow me closely. We have to find a chance to escape. This place is too dangerous. Damn it, this is the rare vacation that can happen to me. What kind of thing am I doing? Bullshit luck. The girl named Ukpinai squatted aside, listening to the two laughing, cursing, and chatting without any pressure, and the original panic in her heart gradually calmed down. Everyone looked at the Firebird mother, who was the only one still standing at this time. For a moment, no one dared to vent their anger loudly, for fear of attracting his attention. Just when Garin was talking to the old man, this man instantly killed several assassins who were sneaking up from behind like a devil. At the same time, all the dense bullets were actually blocked by his sword. During this period, his footsteps did not change at all, and he still walked towards the girl half lying on the ground in front of him. The four old men were covered in blood, two of them had their heads missing, and the remaining two looked seriously injured. The Fire Sparrow mother looked down at everyone in the audience with indifferent eyes. Police cars stopped one after another not far away, but the police officers who got off the cars did not dare to approach at all. With him as the center, no one in a radius of hundreds of meters dared to come in. No one can leave. It was as if an invisible force enveloped this area. It's really sad. Is this your trump card? The power to restrain my blood, the Fire Sparrow mother said lightly. In my eyes, you are just like trash without talent. You are just stronger ants. Julie struggled to her feet. The monster in front of me became stronger again. Compared to the last battle at Moya Pavilion in Water City, the sword in Firebird Mother's hand now is more than twice as powerful as it was then. Even her mental suppression can be cut off. You still talk so much nonsense, do you want to show how strong you are? She spoke, but blood continued to overflow. He looked extremely miserable. It's over now. The more you know, the more likely you are to be silenced. The old man's face turned bitter, and even the bodyguards around him, who had remained calm-faced, started to lose their composure. Boss, what you said is so unlucky, a bodyguard said speechlessly. We are all going to die. What's so unlucky? The old man's face wrinkled. Maybe he is actually a good person, but he had no choice but to do such a thing for one reason or another, Garin interjected. Do you think he looks like a good person? The old man couldn't laugh or cry. You can't tell a good person by his appearance. Garin suddenly seemed to notice something. He chuckled and gently stretched out his right hand. His skin gradually turned into a white gold metallic luster. Sorry, I have something to go first. The old man and Oppenai looked at him in surprise, especially the old man, who seemed a little uncertain and wanted to say something. Ding! Suddenly there was a soft sound in the distance. In an instant, Garin's body disappeared directly from where it was and turned into a shadow, rushing towards the Fire Sparrow mother together with two other strange white shadows. Three shadows arrived in front of the Fire Sparrow mother almost at the same time. Boom! A ball of intense fire exploded from the Firebird mother's body at the same time. You, the Fire Sparrow mother's voice was filled with shock and anger from the explosion. Three shadows immediately jumped up and stood around the Fire Sparrow mother, and turned into three human figures at the same time. It was the Nightmare King, Andrilla, and Garin. The three of them completely surrounded the Fire Sparrow mother. Nightmare licked the dagger in his hand with strange eyes. Now that you're out, don't go back. It's you. The Fire Sparrow mother's pupils shrank, as if she recognized the identity of the Nightmare King. His left arm was hanging limply by his side at this time, obviously having been crippled by the blow just now. I want to leave, no one can stop me. The Fire Sparrow mother didn't say anything, and her figure instantly retreated. The direction he chose was exactly where Garen was. Idle. Thunder. Garen's one hand swelled into blue and black, and he met it with a palm. Bang. A ball of sparks instantly exploded between the sword blade and the palm. The fire sparrow mother was actually knocked back directly, and 2 footprints were drawn on the ground with a hiss. At this time, no one paid any attention to the ciphertext mirror on the ground, and the core of the battlefield was between the 4 people. The Nightmare King and the Fire Sparrow Mother were enemies and were extremely jealous when they met. "Don't interfere, let me do it alone." Stephen raised his right hand to signal Garen and Andrila not to interfere. "Whatever you want," Garen shrugged nonchalantly. "Don't play for too long." Andrila faintly blocked the Firebird Mother's possible escape route. For a top powerhouse like Firebird Mother, no one can tell how many secret tricks he has. Powerful people like the Nightmare King, Fire Sparrow Mother, and Fairy Fran are already very difficult to kill. Even if you are a master of the same level, you still cannot be 100% sure of retaining your opponent if you are not careful. For masters like them, being able to defeat and being able to kill are 2 completely different levels. Just like when the Nightmare King was captured and hunted by the Fire Sparrow Mother and other masters, he also escaped from the siege. Julie was currently in a fighting stance, stunned. The Fire Sparrow Mother, who had beaten her half to death just now, was surrounded by 3 guys in the blink of an eye. It seemed that they came specifically to hunt him. The 4 people just threw her aside, and no one paid any attention to her. Hunting the Fire Sparrow Mother? A veteran master of Immortal Palace? She suddenly became confused about the situation. Aren't the people of Immortal Palace always domineering and unrivaled no matter where they go? How dare someone dare to hunt and kill them? She subconsciously looked in the direction of the teacher. The old woman lying half beside the wall also had a confused look on her face. Apparently unaware of this. If they had known that someone was going to kill the Fire Sparrow Mother, they wouldn't have had to work so hard. At this time, the old woman felt bitter in her heart. "Garen, have you decided to go against our Immortal Palace?" The Fire Sparrow Mother on the field was forced to be extremely embarrassed at this time, and she suddenly shouted to Garen, who was guarding the side. Garen's expression was calm, as if he didn't hear what he said. "Galen," the old woman's expression suddenly changed slightly. Could it be, she carefully observed the face of Garen standing aside, didn't Gawo say that he has no talent? How could it be? "Teacher, can you tell the origins of these 3 people?" Julie approached the old woman and asked in a low voice. "I am not sure as well." "Teacher, didn't you say that ordinary people can't fight against telekinesis masters?" "So what's going on now?" Julie asked doubtfully. "You can't be wrong. Those 3 people are so strong, they must be people with outstanding talents," the old woman said firmly. "I am your sister." Julie felt completely helpless. Teachers have rested on their laurels for too long. Even though the facts are right in front of them, they still deceive themselves and others into believing that talent is supreme. She looked at the 3 local old men, 2 were dead and 1 was injured, and felt that it would be better to stay where they were and watch the battle. The old man lying in the venue stared at Garen with a constipated expression. "I actually spent half a day discussing antique appraisal with a terrorist. I thought I was going crazy." Oppenai showed no obvious fear. "I feel like that gentleman is not a bad person. You're still young and can't see clearly how sinister people are." The old man shook his head and said. "Boss, I think it's better for us to withdraw first," a bodyguard said cautiously. "If you dare to move, I guarantee that you will be killed with a few casual shots," the old man said angrily. Garen stood alone in the direction of the venue, blocking the flying debris from time to time. The fighting styles of the Nightmare King and the Fire Sparrow Mother were extremely weird, as if the Fire Sparrow Mother suddenly changed from a top expert to an ordinary young man who had just started to learn swordsmanship. The elf sword in his hand was crooked, and it cut into the air from time to time. "It seems that he is cooperating with Stephen," the king of nightmares, to perform a fake punch. But looking at the serious expression on Firebird Mother's face, one knew that it wasn't him who was being flirtatious, but that the other party was not simple. Garen clenched his fist unconsciously. The sharp edge of the elf sword was just slightly hurt when he used his hand to force it. If he was still the old giant elephant secret martial artist, even if he was at the peak of his hard Qigong, he would not dare to force it head on. "Hurry up, we don't have much time," Garen urged. The Nightmare King did not answer, but his offensive became even faster. His body can be attacked from various angles, and his arms can be as flexible and bent as noodles when straightened out. The most bizarre thing is his eyes, which are a pair of pure eyes as blue as the sea. It seems to have infinite attraction, attracting people to look at the pupils of their eyes. Garen and Andrila both stared closely at the Fire Sparrow Mother. At this level, any master has an unusually strong vitality, especially a master who has lived long enough. There are endless secret methods to save life. If you are not careful, you will be killed. He might seize the opportunity to escape. Clang. Suddenly there was a crisp sound, and a piece of broken slate cut open the metal box containing the cipher mirror. A white and silver oval ancient mirror slowly rolled out from inside. "Silver mirror," the old woman on Julie's side exclaimed. "Julie." "Understood." Julie bowed her body and rushed towards the mirror. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 191. Humph, Andrila snorted coldly, her figure instantly blurred on the spot, and when she reappeared, she was already in front of Julie. "If you don't want to die, get out." The silver mirror is also one of the goals of the three of them this time, so naturally no one else is allowed to take it away. The silver mirror is related to the original nuclear will. Once you obtain the secret method, it will naturally unlock the original nuclear will, Julie explained hurriedly. Protocore will? What is that? Andrila asked doubtfully. An evil, cruel thing, the power that can change a person's spiritual will. It's too late to say more now. Let's do this. We cooperate. You want the secret method, and we only need to solve the original nuclear will. How about it? Julie said concisely. Answer. Andrila looked carefully at the girl's expression, as well as the expressions of the old woman and the old man not far away, and felt that there was no need to lie since the other party had reached this point. "We'll keep the mirror." He raised the tip of his sword and immediately threw the mirror up and landed it in his hand. "Give me your contact information." Julie hesitated. "Give it to him, Julie," the old woman shouted from behind. "Okay." Julie raised her right hand and immediately threw out a red card. The card snapped and was caught by Andrila. Just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly changed, and he turned around and rushed towards the Fire Sparrow Mother. At the same time, Garen's expression also changed, a big pit exploded under his feet, and he rushed towards the Fire Sparrow Mother. At this time, the Fire Sparrow Mother looked like she was crazy, and the elf sword in her hand turned into a red raindrop, pouring towards the nightmare like a tide. The strangest thing is that the runes on the sword are getting brighter and more dazzling. Peacock, he suddenly jumped on the spot, and his body turned into three after images at the same time, attacking the three of Garen. Dang, dang, dang. The three of them each took a step back and were slightly beaten. The Nightmare King snorted coldly, picked up a stone with his toes, and fired it into the air in the distance. The figure of the Fire Sparrow Mother suddenly appeared there. At the same time he snapped his fingers. Suddenly there was a sharp whistling sound from all around, and more than a dozen rocket launchers trailing flames flew towards the Fire Sparrow Mother from all directions. More than a dozen soldiers with dull faces and dull eyes slowly lowered the rocket launchers on their shoulders from all directions, and at the same time pulled out the firearms from their waists and fired wildly at the Fire Sparrow Mother. They were not afraid at all of the Firebird Mother's mental suppression. Boom! There was a roar in the air, and a large ball of dazzling yellow fire flashed away. What followed was a clear ring of white smoke, spreading in all directions. In the violent explosion, a red shadow shot out, smashed the glass window of a building not far away, and disappeared directly inside. I didn't expect that he escaped. Even when the three of us were besieging him, the Nightmare King's face was a bit ugly. Masters at this level all have countless secret ways to save their lives. It is easy to defeat them, but it is almost impossible to kill them completely. Unless they are willing. Andrilla shook her head and said, "Now that you have the mirror, retreat." The three of them nodded at the same time, jumped a few times, and turned into three shadows, disappearing into an alley in an instant. "Let's retreat too," the old woman gritted her teeth as she looked in the direction Garen was leaving. Julie and the remaining old man nodded, took their bodies with them, and quickly disappeared behind the exhibition venue building. "Wait until people are almost gone." At the edge of the square, amidst the chaos, among the ruins of stone pillars, statues, and the collapsed walls of the venue, a person burst out with a crash. Covered in white ash, with his hands broken at the wrists, he was the former Silver Cult leader. I didn't expect that my great leader would actually be reduced to a mouse, pretending to be dead and hiding under the ruins. He gritted his teeth. With two clattering sounds, the two black snake couples also came out at the same time. "Aren't we the same? If you can't beat me, you'll have to hide," the female black snake said disdainfully. "If you have the ability, go find someone to fight." A cipher mirror actually provoked so many masters of unknown origins. The male black snake frowned and looked at the ruined square, not knowing what he was thinking. "What are you thinking about?" The female black snake glanced at her man. "Nothing." A few kilometers away from the square, on a wilderness grassland in the countryside, a black truck was parked diagonally beside the abandoned Lois path. Amidst the click of the door opening, Andrilla, Garen, and Nightmare jumped out and gathered on the empty grass beside the car. Andrilla leaned against the truck door, gently tossing an oval white and silver mirror in her hand. "This is the silver mirror and the encrypted mirror. Now that I have it, Nightmare, you should know how to use it, right?" His eyes fell on the Nightmare King. Nightmare nodded. "It's natural. It's a pity that he couldn't seriously damage the Firebird Mother. I didn't expect that he didn't confront us at all last time. He left immediately when he saw the situation." He took the mirror and carefully touched the delicate patterns and symbols on the edge. "Unblocking requires a certain amount of preparation time. Before that, how about we go see the group of people who suddenly appeared to intercept the Fire Sparrow Mother? That old woman seems to know me." Garen frowned slightly. He reached out and took the mirror from Nightmare. He didn't feel the existence of potential at all. It was obvious that this thing was not a doomed antique. While observing and playing with the mirror, he hesitated. "Those people said there is some kind of proto-nuclear will in this. What is that thing?" "Never heard of it." Andrilla shook her head. Nightmare also said that he had never heard of it. "That's why I said go and see what these people have to say. They must have mastered something that we haven't been able to touch." Garen touched the book pendant on his chest. The thing started to heat up again. There was no regular heat at all. He didn't know what was going on. "Do you know your contact information?" "It says yes on the card." Nightmare took the mirror and looked at it carefully. According to the translation of the patterns and symbols on it, the secret method recorded on this ciphertext mirror is a sealing secret method that can seal the essence at ordinary times. The key is it breaks out at any time and achieves a sudden effect. However, according to the intelligence, I have also found some antiques in the Immortal Palace in the past, but I have never heard of any proto-nuclear will." He paused. "Well, let's just go and see what they say first. Anyway, with the strength of the three of us, we don't have to worry about anything we encounter. Maybe I guessed the identities of those people." Garen finally found an almost forgotten scene from his dusty memory. In the old man's dolphin antique store, an old woman he saw that day entered the store. The woman's appearance was very similar to the old woman he saw today. He suddenly had a hunch that he might soon be able to find the whereabouts of Cien Fran. Nighttime. Following the address card given by Julie, the three of them quickly found a remote grove along the outskirts of the city. An abandoned deep well in the middle of the woods is the entrance recorded on the card. The three of them were hesitant at first, but then they saw a faint light at the bottom of the well, and a young man in black climbed up from inside. "Please follow me. The teacher is waiting for you below," the young man whispered respectfully to the three of them. The three of them did feel that there was a lot of movement down there, and there was even music from the record player. Follow the young man down the wellhead and drill into a tunnel as high as one person from the left side of the well bottom. The three of them quickly entered a wide underground stone chamber. The gray-brown walls are made of square stone bricks and look old. There is a black piano in the corner, and a girl in black is sitting in front of the piano, playing unknown music gently. This girl is the same Julie who appeared during the day. The soothing music slowly stopped with the arrival of Garen and others. "Teacher, they are here," Julie stood up and said to the other corner of the stone room. Only then did the three of them notice that there was actually an old man sitting on a black wicker chair in that corner, with a vague aura that had been hidden from them from the beginning. This old man was the old woman who was seriously injured during the day. "There's something here that makes me feel uncomfortable," Nightmare frowned and whispered. He sniffed and pulled out a piece of white silk to cover the end of his nose. "Your senses are very keen," the old woman smiled and nodded. "I haven't thanked the three people for their help during the day. If it hadn't been for the help of the three people, our lineage would have suffered heavy casualties today." "Two old people died, doesn't it count as heavy casualties?" Andrilla asked. "No," the old woman nodded, "those two have recovered a little and went to a secret place to recuperate. Just being seriously injured once is not a bad thing." "It's not so bad to be seriously injured once," Garen repeated her words. "Interesting. You three, please sit down and talk." The old woman asked Julie to bring 3 cups of coffee. A few people sat down in the stone room. The King of Nightmares left the ready-made stool and went over to sit with Andrilla. His face seemed expressionless, but in fact his movements were extremely intimate. When he saw the surprised looks of several people, he immediately reached out and rubbed his face vigorously. Soon, a thin human skin mask was torn off by him, revealing the beautiful and heroic face underneath. She suddenly transformed from a mustachioed gentleman into a top beauty with some small breasts. Andrilla put his arms around her waist, and the two of them kissed as if no one else was watching. "Okay, let's talk if you have anything to say. I heard from Garen that you seem to know him." The old woman turned to look at Garen and narrowed her eyes. "As a matter of fact, I do know him. Mr. Galen Lombard." She picked up the coffee and took a sip. "I'm inviting you three people to come here this time, mainly because I have news about the silver mirror that I want to tell you." The three of them said nothing, just waiting for her next words. The old woman paused and introduced herself. "My name is Zhao Xingqin. As you may think, this name comes from the east. My father and I are telepathy masters who traveled across the ocean from the east. The power of mind is the fundamental manifestation of the mind's ability to distort reality and interfere with matter, which is what we often call talent. Anyone with this kind of power is a dragon among men, with incomparably powerful talents. I heard that some national forces have studied this kind of thing before, trying to artificially activate the human body's telekinesis," Nightmare whispered. At this time, her voice became crisp and sweet, very clear.